Ever had your car just shut off in traffic? Or crank forever even after you change the sensors, plugs, or even the fuel pump? You might be looking in the wrong place. The ECM, the car's computer, can act up and cause all kinds of trouble. It can throw fake codes, mess with your dash, cut your power, stall the engine, or even block your scan tool. Here's the kicker. Research shows corrosion and water damage are top reasons ECMs fail, especially in cars over 5 years old. It's not rare, it's pretty common. It feels like 10 different problems at once. That's why so many people waste money fixing the wrong parts. In this video, I'll show you 11 real signs of a bad ECM, plus quick checks you can do before spending more money. Spot it early, save cash, and keep your car on the road. Let's dive in. First, let's quickly cover what the ECM does, so the symptoms make sense. What is an ECM? The ECM, or Engine Control Module, is the brain of your car. It takes signals from sensors like airflow, throttle, oxygen, and coolant, and controls spark, fuel, shifting, and even cooling fans. When it glitches, your car shows symptoms that look like 10 different problems: random codes, stalling, shifting issues, or electrical weirdness. That's why people waste money swapping parts when the real problem is the ECM. The first sign most people notice is the obvious one. Symptom number 1. Check engine light won't go away. You'd be surprised how many cars roll into my shop with the check engine light glowing like a Christmas tree. One guy swapped a brand new sensor, cleaned the wiring, even checked the connectors, still nothing. The ECM was throwing random codes. A total malfunction of the car's brain. That kind of failure makes drivers chase ghosts. Ever had that happen? Here's the fix. Don't just keep spending on replacement parts. Pop the hood, inspect for corrosion, look for damage around the module, and run a proper diagnostic. If the electronic system keeps spitting error signals, your ECM's but sometimes, the ECM doesn't just trigger the check engine light. It messes with your whole dashboard. Symptom number 2. Random dash cluster glitches. I had a customer swear their car was haunted. The dash lights would flicker, the tach bounced like crazy, and the speedometer dropped to 0 while driving. The culprit wasn't a bad sensor or loose bulb. It was the ECM, the car's brain glitching out. That kind of malfunction throws random signals through the cluster, making the engine look fine one minute and full of error the next. Ever seen your dash go nuts for no reason? Here's the move. Run a proper diagnostic. Inspect wiring and connectors for corrosion or damage, and check the module. If the electronic system shows repeat failure and the ECM keeps confusing ignition and spark data, it's not ghosts. It's the computer. If you thought flickering gauges were scary, imagine this. Symptom number 3. Engine stalling. While driving, I've seen cars cruising down the road suddenly go dead like someone flipped a switch. One driver came in after their engine kept stalling mid-driving. No warning at all. The ECM had a malfunction, cutting fuel and spark at random, leaving the car's brain completely confused. Ever had that terrifying highway shutdown? Before panicking, run a diagnostic, check the wiring and connectors, and look for corrosion or hidden damage near the module. If you keep getting error signals and ignition cuts, odds are the electronic system is the real failure, not just a bad sensor. And when the brain gets confused enough, even your scanner can't talk to it. Symptom number 4. ECM communication failures. I once plugged a scanner into a Chevy and got nothing. No data, no codes, just silence. The owner thought it was a bad sensor, but the real failure was the ECM itself. The car's brain had a malfunction, blocking communication and spitting random error messages when it did connect. Ever had your scan tool refuse to talk to the engine? Here's the move. Run a deeper diagnostic. Inspect wiring and connectors for corrosion or damage near the module. If the electronic system keeps breaking communication, and spark or ignition readings vanish, the ECM is toast, not the scanner. Of course, sometimes the car will still drive, but it feels gutless. Symptom number 5. Loss of acceleration. Hesitation. A customer once told me, "I floor it, and the engine just gives me a weak response." Sure enough, the car had awful hesitation and felt sluggish. The ECM, the car's brain, was misreading the throttle and mixing air and fuel wrong. No matter the plugs or sensor swaps, the problem stayed. Ever mashed the pedal and felt ignored? Here's the move. Run a diagnostic, check wiring and connectors for corrosion or damage around the module. If the electronic controls keep glitching and ignition or sparks stumble, that malfunction points to ECM failure more than anything else. And while you're pressing the gas harder, your wallet feels it too. Symptom number 6. Sudden drop in fuel economy. One customer complained their fuel consumption almost doubled overnight. No leaks, no bad pump, just money draining at the gas station. The car's brain, the ECM, had a hidden malfunction, mismanaging the air-fuel mix. Even with fresh plugs and a clean sensor, the engine was running rich. Ever notice your economy tank out of nowhere? Here's the trick. Run a diagnostic, check wiring and connectors for corrosion or damage at the module. If the electronic system keeps spitting error signals and nothing changes after a replacement, that's a strong sign of ECM failure. But here's the most frustrating part. Sometimes it just won't start at all. Quick pause. If this is useful, give it a like, and subscribe for more car-saving tips. Symptom number 7. Car won't start. No start. Last month, a Honda got towed in. Cranked all day but stayed dead. The owner had already swapped plugs, a fuel pump, and even a crank sensor, but the engine never fired. The car's brain, the ECM, had a hidden malfunction, failing to send spark and fuel commands. Ever dealt with that no-start nightmare yourself? Here's the reality. Don't just throw replacement parts at it. Check your wiring, test the connectors, and run a proper diagnostic. If you keep getting error codes, spot corrosion or damage around the module. The electronic control unit might be the real failure. Even when it does run, you'll see weird side effects, like fans going haywire. Symptom number 8. Cooling fans acting weird. Last week, a Nissan came in with fans blasting at full speed even though the engine was cold. Another time, a Toyota kept overheating because the cooling system never switched on. Both traced back to the ECM, the car's brain, feeding bad signals. That kind of malfunction makes people blame thermostats when it's really the module. Ever heard your fans running non-stop? Solution: run a diagnostic. Inspect wiring and connectors for corrosion or hidden damage. If the electronic controls keep throwing error codes and the failure is constant or random, it's likely the ECM, not a bad sensor or ignition part. And it doesn't stop there. The transmission gets dragged into the chaos. Symptom number 9. Shifting problems. I had a Chevy come in where the gears were acting wild hard, harsh shifts, and sometimes a delayed 1-2 change. The owner thought the transmission was toast, but the real failure was the ECM. The car's brain was sending bad throttle and load data to the TCM, tricking it into a constant malfunction. Ever felt that sudden jerk between shifting? Before dropping cash on a rebuild, run a diagnostic. Inspect wiring and connectors. Check for corrosion or damage near the module. And don't ignore error codes. If the electronic system keeps confusing the engine and spark timing, your ECM is likely the guilty one. Other times, the car won't even recognize its own key. Symptom number 10. Immobilizer security issues. A customer once thought their key was bad because the car refused to start. They even bought a new fob, but the engine stayed dead. Turns out the ECM, the car's brain, had a malfunction and wasn't talking to the immobilizer. That kind of security failure makes people chase locksmiths when it's really the computer. Ever had your car suddenly say wrong key? Here's what to do. Run a diagnostic. Check wiring and connectors for corrosion or damage around the module. If the electronic system keeps showing error codes and blocking ignition or spark, the ECM is the real problem, not the sensor or the fob. And when it does start, it idles like it's gasping for air. Symptom number 11. Erratic idle. Hunting idle. A Ford came in last week, revving up and down like it was breathing heavy. Classic hunting idle. The owner had already cleaned the throttle and swapped plugs and a sensor, but the engine kept surging. The ECM, the car's brain, had a malfunction, mixing air and fuel wrong. That kind of failure throws people off because it feels so random. Ever had your car's idle jump like it's alive? Fix is simple. Run a diagnostic. Check the wiring and connectors for corrosion or hidden damage around the module. If the electronic system keeps sending error signals, messing up spark and ignition, the ECM is the culprit, not a dirty throttle body. Rarely, the problem is obvious. You can see it, or even smell it. Bonus symptom: burnt smell or visible damage. I once opened an ECM box and got hit with a strong burnt smell. The casing was melted, and the wiring nearby showed damage. The car's brain had a full malfunction, leaving the engine in total failure. It's not common, but when the electronic module cooks itself, no sensor swap or quick fix will help. Ever smelled that hot electronics odor under the hood? Here's your play: run a diagnostic. Inspect the connectors for corrosion, and check the module housing closely. If you see physical damage or smell something burnt, the ignition spark and engine issues are just side effects. The ECM itself is fried. Now, before you panic, there are a few quick things you can try yourself. DIY checks before blaming ECM. I've seen drivers spend thousands before doing the simplest thing: disconnecting the battery for a reset. One Nissan I worked on had all sorts of error codes, but after a reset and cleaning the connectors, the engine fired right up. Sometimes the car's brain just needs a reboot. If issues stick, grab a scanner, run a diagnostic, and inspect wiring for corrosion or damage near the module. If the electronic system shows repeat malfunction, blocking spark, ignition, or the start sequence, odds are it's an ECM failure, not just a loose wire. But if those don't work, here's the part that really hurts: cost and consequence of ignoring ECM. I once had a customer throw $1,000 into sensor swaps, fuel parts, and repair bills before finding out the ECM was the real failure. That kind of money waste stings, especially when a new module or replacement could have fixed it faster. Ever felt that pain of chasing ghosts in your engine? Here's the truth: ECM cost ranges from a few hundred to over $1,000, but it's still cheaper than stacking parts and labor. Run a diagnostic. Inspect wiring and connectors for corrosion or damage, and don't ignore early malfunction signs in the car's brain. Your wallet will thank you. So if you catch these signs early, you'll save yourself a lot of money and frustration. Final thoughts. Here's the deal: when your car's brain starts acting up, it doesn't always scream ECM problem. Instead, it hides behind false codes, stalling, weird shifting, or electrical goat. That's why so many drivers waste money chasing sensors, pumps, and repairs that never fix the real issue. But if you catch these 11 symptoms early and run the simple checks I showed you, you'll save yourself thousands and a lot of frustration. So don't ignore the little sign. The ECM might just be whispering before it leaves you stranded.